How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So the Yankees have been a little bit active over the last day or so. They are interested in a Korean star. This guy is a freaking monster. We're going to break him down for you, give you some insight into Jung Houl, which is an exciting center field prospect coming from the Korean League. So, this is a player who, if the Yankees want to go with a little bit more youth, want to go with a little bit more upside, and really, this guy has elite plate discipline. There are some concerns about him being able to hit higher velocity pitches, but apparently he's been working diligently to prepare for this. There could be some serious potential here. We're going to really dive into this guy because not many people know about him. Some people do, and the people that do really like him. And defensively, the guy is an absolute monster. He is a defensive freaking I think he has 4 or 5 straight gold gloves in the Korean League. He's an absolute tank. And then the Yankees also signed a free agent pitcher to a minor league deal with a major league option. I think they would pay him about $1 million, $900K, if he were to reach it to the majors. Really interesting pitch makeup, and Brian's going to break that down for you. But Ryan, before we dive into the good stuff, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Looking at, we're talking about Yermin De Los Santos first because I imagine that's not to say he's like a lesser player than Lee, but it is a lesser name. Lee is a pretty coveted free agent. But in De Los Santos's case, he's a heavy sinker guy. He actually was 61.5% sinker this past season, and it was his best pitch. They just couldn't hit it at all hard. Batters struggled to elevate against that pitch. It's why he was able to keep the ball on the ground. He did struggle with command. He had a 12.5% walk rate. He didn't get enough strikeouts to stay rostered by the Pirates. But, it is the Pittsburgh Pirates, and not to disparage your organization, but they're not known for pitching development. The Yankees are known for pitching development, specifically with sinkers. And if guy with a hard sinker coming from the Pittsburgh Pirates sounds familiar to you, that's what Clay Holmes was. So, looking at De Los Santos' pitch mix, he needs secondaries. His secondary offerings just aren't really great. The slider is, there are some things to like. It is a firmer slider at around 86 miles an hour, but the pitch movement on it isn't great in terms of stuff. Plus, it's a flat 100, so it's basically an average pitch, which you want your sliders to grade above average, or you want them to at least perform above average. They're supposed to be your put-away pitch. It's supposed to be a pitch you can go out and get swings and misses with, and that just wasn't what that slider was for him this past season. And then his changeup, which he uses 17.6% of the time, just wasn't anything notable for him either. He actually had a negative run value on his slider this past season, so that's not a great sign, but the Yankees are known for developing sliders as well. Alex, no other team in baseball since the start of the 2022 season has thrown more sweepers than the New York Yankees, so maybe that's something that he does develop. But overall, it's a flyer project pitcher, right? The Yankees aren't going to have to throw him on the major league roster. He's only 25 years old. If he does actually pan out, pretty sure the Yankees could have him for the next 5 years. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure exactly how the service time stuff works when you acquire a player through minor league free agency. But yeah, Alex, given their track record with relievers, pretty hard not to be hey, this could work. And I tweeted this, and it is pretty funny. We'll argue about whether the Yankees should get Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Hell, some people will even argue whether the Yankees should get Juan Soto or not. We'll talk about Cody Bellinger, or, even what we're going to talk about Lee, but which guys the Yankees should get. But every single Yankee fan can rally behind the idea that, oh yeah, it's a guy with a sinker. The Yankees are totally going to make him good. There is something to be excited about here. He does throw hard, and, keep an eye on him in spring training and at some point during the season.
Look, as you said, every single time Matt Blake and the Yankees go and get some no-name reliever I've never heard about, Ian Hamilton or Clay Holmes, I'm like, oh, we just got a stud. We're good. We just got a freaking stud. Yerry De La Torres, never heard of this guy in my freaking life. In fact, I don't even think he knew who he was before yesterday. And now we have a guy who, the Yankees, it fits the perfect profile. Now, we know he's not accurate. We know that he has some issues with location, but Clay Holmes had the same issues. Clay Holmes was an erratic pitcher. In fact, he still is sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, he's way better than he's a liability. He's more of an asset than a liability. The Yankees turn liabilities into assets. Ian Hamilton was a journeyman. Now he was arguably our best bullpen arm last year, if not our best closer. He was incredible. So, watching this pitch, and that's the one thing the Yankees consistently do well. They find relief pitchers that perform at a really high level. And of all the parts of the Yankees that are really bad and the inconsistencies, that is the one place where I'm we found this guy that I didn't know existed yesterday. Oh, he's going to be a stud. That's just the fact with the Yankees right now in that specific department. So we'll keep you guys updated on him. He's going to start in the minor leagues, then see if he can develop into a major league caliber player. But Jung Houl, Ryan, wow. This kid is exactly what the Yankees kind of need. 25 years old, same age as Juan Soto, same age as Yamamoto. If the Yankees want to go for an option that's not Kevin Kiermaier, not Manuel Margot, like, older options, 30 plus, I think Kiermaier's 33 now. They want to get a guy like Jung Houl who's going to you're going to cost a little bit more, but he has insane upside. He is really young, and he's a ridiculously phenomenal defender. So the one thing, and guys, keep in mind, like the KBO is like AA, right? And AA, for what it's worth, is probably the most difficult minor league subsection. KBO, this is not going to be the end all be all of Jung Houl career in the MLB. Like, these stats are going to change. But there is one thing I want to harp on that I think will translate, and that is just general plate discipline. Yes, he does hit into some serious ground balls a lot, but I think that right now, you look at the 5.9% strikeout rate in 2023. You look at the 5.1% strikeout rate in 2022. This guy has not had a double-digit strikeout rate since 2018 when he was 19 years old. He has some of the best plate discipline. He could be your leadoff hitter for a long time. He just hit 318 with a 406 OBP and 455 slugging rate. And keep in mind, in 2022, he hit 349 with a 421 OBP and 575 slugging rate with a 175 WRC plus. He had a little bit of an injury issue this past season. Otherwise, had played 140 at a minimum of 120 games for the last couple of years. This guy has ridiculous talent. He's going to be fully healthy. He's 25 years old. He can hit for power. He can get on base a crap ton. He is a really good athlete. Ryan, what do you like about this player? Because I think as a center field solution, there may not be a better kind of upside grab in this, aside from Cody Bellinger. Of course, he's a very solid MLB level talent, but there may not be a better risk reward than Jung Houl. He's not going to cost Cody Bellinger, but he'll cost a pretty penny. But the upside here is an elite plate discipline guy that can get on base and be your leadoff man for a long time. And we know the Yankees love lefty batters. So what makes you think the Yankees could be interested in a player like this as a long-term solution in center field?
Yeah, I'm just going to be quite honest with you. I mean, Jung Houl has all the tools that the Yankees have talked about wanting, right? Like Hal Steinbrenner said, hey, we want to get younger. Getting younger, it's a priority. Brian Cashman said, we want two outfielders, preferably left-handed. Jung Houl's left-handed. He's 25 years old, right? Like, those are two things right there. They want to be more athletic. That's another skill that he has. Over the past 3 seasons, if you average his stats, it's a 162 WRC plus, a 5.9% strikeout rate, 431 on base percentage, and 11.3% walk rate. So when you're walking basically twice as much as you're striking out, when your on base percentage starts with a 4, when your WRC plus is 162, right? Like, as you mentioned, that is, Baseball America did grade out the KBO, I think back in 2020, as in between AAA and AA, no higher than no one said it was the equivalent of AAA, but no one said it was worse than AA. So if you were to rank it, it would probably go the MPB, AAA, KBO, AA. I mean, Anthony Volpe basically went from AA to the major leagues, right? And he was not this dominant. Now, I understand it's not necessarily a one-to-one comparison, but if there was a guy with a 162 WRC plus who turned 25 this past August and he wasn't on the Yankees major league roster, or at least in consideration the year after, we would be screaming our heads off. Like, if Ben Rice doesn't take a major league at bat next year and he continues to play the way he did last year, we would be fuming, right? Like, that's a similar situation here. And he can play center field. As you mentioned, the defense, right? Like, there's a lot of, confidence in different scouts regarding his his ball tracking skills and his ability to, utilize his speed and range in the outfield. I'm not saying he's going to win any gold gloves in the U.S. because there are some really good defenders in the American League out in center field, but can he be like a 4 to 5 outs above average guy there? I think he can. And when he's struggling with the bat at first, because it's going to happen, he's going to have a stretch where he doesn't look great, where he's struggling, where he's adjusting, the ability to recognize pitches well, take pitches, work walks, all that stuff, the ability to put the ball in play, and the ability to play good defense. It's going to allow him to hit in the bottom third of the order in the beginning and kind of build his, his offensive skill set up. When you have a great hit tool like him, it creates a higher floor, I feel like. There's a little less is he going to be able to actually make contact with the baseball? That question, it's not a question. He's going to be able to. So I'm actually really excited about the prospect of signing him. And you mentioned, is he probably going to be more expensive than Manuel Margot or Kevin Kiermaier? And in terms of actual money, yes. He's going to get 4 to 5 years. Kevin Kiermaier is not getting 4 to 5 years, and Manuel Margot has 1 year left remaining on his deal. And I don't think the Yankees are handing him a 5-year extension if they trade for him. So, yes, in terms of on paper, he would get a larger contract. But if we're looking at what the Yankees care about, That's the luxury tax. I talked about this yesterday with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, where it's like, hey, he wants more total money than everybody else. Annual average salary probably isn't much of a concern to him. The Yankees, on the other hand, are probably more concerned about the luxury tax, so they are concerned about annual average salary and don't care as much about the total of the contract. Lee is only 25 years old. Let's say you make it a 5-year, $60 million deal. That's like $12 million a year, right? That's what? It's $2 million more than Margot's getting. Probably about $2 million more than what Kiermaier's going to get a year, right? Like, is it that much more towards the luxury tax? Give him an opt-out here or there, whenever wherever, like maybe it's after year 4, maybe it's after year 3, whatever it may be. But Lee could be like a really low-cost player for you. And if he's making $12 million a year and you get like 2.5 WAR out of him in that first year or that second year, that's pretty good value. He's projected to put up a 108 OPS plus and a 342 OBP. And Alex, if you get that out of your center field position from the left field side, like for context, guys, Cody Bellinger is projected for a 108 WRC plus. So if you're trying to beat the market here and you're trying to get a player that you can project long term and hopefully have get better, look, he may hit a lot of ground balls, but if he's a guy who has limited power and he's dealing with that short porch in right field, he may be a guy who benefits from that. So I do think this could be a good venture for the Yankees to take. End of the day, like, you're trying to get younger. I get why this would be a great fit.
Absolutely. I mean, look, it definitely feels like a great fit, as you mentioned, 4 to 5 years, a little bit more. How does this play into Jason Dominguez? How does this play into the strategy with him? That's something I kind of want to discuss just momentarily here. Dominguez obviously profiles as a future center fielder, but many people think he could be a corner outfielder. Now, the question I have is, if you go get Juan Soto, you sign Jung Houl, and you have Aaron Judge, where does Dominguez play? Because Stanton obviously is your DH for the foreseeable future, unless you just DFA him and just eat the money, which I do not think the Yankees are going to do for obvious reasons. How would you play that? Like, how would you opt? Are you going to do you trade Dominguez at that juncture? Or what is your options there in terms of having the outfield already situated? And I just don't think Cashman's going to make a deal like this simply because he views Dominguez as their future center fielder.
Yeah, the way I look at this situation is that the New York Yankees don't need to account for Dominguez in center field right now. Now, what does that mean? That means that the New York Yankees currently have Jason Dominguez in the IL. Jason Dominguez has spent 1 week with the major league team. You can't just call him like a certified, the guy has to start every single day the second he's remotely healthy. You got to get him back into the groove of things. You got to make sure everything's ironed out. You got to make sure his development comes first, right? You cannot just force it. You cannot rely on him to be your savior in center field. That's not fair to him, right? Like, that's not. And talk about what do you do at Stanton? What do you do with, the situation in center field, whatever it may be. Number one, does Lee play great in year 1 if Lee is like an 80 WRC plus guy in year 1, which it is possible. Like, Ha-Seong Kim came over and he's been great his last 2 years, but his first year he was terrible, right? Like, he actually was reduced to a pinch hitter, pitch runner role during the last 2 months of the 2021 season. He didn't even register 300 plate appearances that year. So let's say Jason Dominguez comes back. He forces his way back into the lineup. He hits really well. Lee is struggling, whatever it may be. Okay, well, now you have, a nice, healthy outfield competition for 2025. Let's say Stanton struggles, right? Like, Stanton struggles. Now you have Dominguez who can fill in for him, right? So, there are a lot of variables here. Number one, is Jason Dominguez going to be able to handle center field defensively? Number two, is Jason Dominguez going to be a quality, everyday major league player? I hope so, and I think that's the most likely outcome out of all these variables, but it's still a question inherently. Is Jung Houl going to be a reliable, like, every single day, you got to have him in center field type player? And number four, is Giancarlo Stanton going to play himself back into the lineup every day? For a year and a half now, he's been a bad player. Like, not an okay player, not a struggling player, bad. A negative 1.1 F-WAR since the All-Star break of 2022. So there are 4 things that are variables here, and the Yankees, the best course of action for the Yankees here would be to prepare for outcomes like Stanton being hurt, or Stanton not playing well, or Dominguez needing more time than expected, or Dominguez having growing pains, or Jung Houl having growing pains, or whatever it may be. Injuries are a constant. Injuries are a thing this team has not been able to avoid really ever. Like, no team avoids injuries. Everybody goes through it, right? Like, even the Rangers, right? Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer. They also lost, I believe, Max Scherzer twice, right? Like, they lost him in the postseason. He was IL'd, and they lost him during the regular season. You look at the Houston Astros, right? Like, they've had injuries, right? It's Jose Altuve hasn't had a perfectly clean bill of health. Yordan Alvarez has been on the IL every single year, I think, over the last 3 or 4 years. They lost Verlander to Tommy John surgery. Like, these things are unexpected. If you have a lot of good talent, it works out for you, right? And I think that's the way the Yankees have to look at it. There's just too much uncertainty regarding Jung Houl Stanton, too much uncertainty regarding the return date of Jason Dominguez, and then his viability in center field, and then his viability as a major leaguer for me to sit here and say, you just got to throw somebody out in center field and hope it works. You're trying to win a World Series. And unfortunately, the grace period for me with Stanton has ended. And I think Brian Cashman's comments, not that they were damning of Jung Houl Stanton, but they do indicate that he wants a contingency plan for the first time, really, since Stanton has gotten here, if Stanton doesn't work out. They haven't ever had one, and it's bit us in the butt. And I think this would give you a good contingency plan.
I mean, yeah, Stanton's definitely in a situation where, like, if the Yankees could move on, I feel like they would. You look at his deal, $98 million in luxury tax salary, 2028 has the $10 million buyout option, which they will absolutely be taking. And, see Cashman's comments saying, Stanton's inevitably going to get injured. And then Joe Wolf saying, well, everyone has to be made of Teflon to play in New York, I guess. And it's like, no, we just want you to actually, like, play and not be injured all the time. And objectively speaking, Stanton is always hurt. Or he misses at least 30, 40 games a season. I think he just missed a good chunk. So, you got to anticipate Stanton going down. He can't really play defense anymore. It's just tough. Like, honestly, Stanton, if he doesn't turn things around, do you just bench him? Like, do you just, if he becomes more of a liability than an asset, which he was last year, more of a liability, do you just bench him and just, let him ride the bench or DFA him and clear the roster spot? Like, you have to hope. And here's the thing, Ryan, that I think is really interesting. Aaron Judge said after the season ended, even the veterans have to continue improving. There's always things that we can do to improve. There's always things that we can do to get a little bit better or, refine our swing, refine our fundamentals. It sounds like he's directly talking to guys like Stanton. You know what I mean? Maybe not like inherently talking to Stanton, but a generalized comment that says everyone's got to be getting better and not staying the same. Because if you're staying the same, you're getting worse a lot of times. You know what I mean? You think Judge is staying exactly the same all the time? No, he's always making change. He's always making improvements. He's always working on, improving his bat speed or whatever it might be. So, Stanton, in my opinion, I'm not going to say he hasn't been working to improve. It's possible he has been working really hard to improve, but it doesn't look like it. He's not seeing the results. And the things that are declining are the things that he should be getting better at, the things he should be maintaining. And it seems to me that maybe he just stopped, he stopped getting better. He stopped working on getting better and just worked on staying the same. And we didn't see those similar, maybe it was the injuries. I'm speculating here, but there's a lot of questions I have regarding why he has gotten so much worse in such a short amount of time. Is it all because of the injuries? It's possible. Is it because he's not playing freaking, miss me with the bullshit that he's not playing good because he's not playing a lot of defense. Like, the Giants, or rather the Yankees, are not getting the best of Giancarlo Stanton because he's not playing in the outfield. He's got to be, he's hitting. His glove isn't going to swing. You know what I mean? I get there's a balance. I get there's kind of a recipe for, like, the more you're playing, the more in tune you're in with the game, the more involved you are. Like, I get that. But you don't see declines like this just by being a DH. You know what I mean? You see declines like this because your bat speed is declining, because your plate discipline is declining, because your decision-making is declining, because your contact rate is declining. His power metrics look consistent. They look solid. It's just the underlying metrics that are really impacting him. So he's got to work on it. He's got to get better. And I'm very curious to see what the Yankees do long-term if he does not get it to a point where he is a serviceable solution and a productive player in this lineup, because we can no longer have a $22 million liability in the cleanup spot, especially if you go out and get a guy like Juan Soto. You put Juan Soto in the cleanup spot if that's the case. So the Yankees have a lot of decisions to make, but obviously we have to get Juan Soto first to make any big ones. And I do feel as though they will be aggressive if the Padres do elect to offload some salary. But guys, always happy to hear your perspectives below in the YouTube comment section about players like Jung Houl, and of course this new pitcher that we got that has some upside and could be nothing, could be a gem. You never know with this Yankee team. But always happy to hear your thoughts. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.